I've been pretty quiet on the Nintendo front of late, and to put it simply, the reason I haven't had anything to say is because the grapevine hasn't been putting anything out constituting real news. Switch 2 rumors abound in the face of all logic, and in the end, we're all going to be left with widespread disappointment when what Nintendo ultimately delivers is, if anything, an upgraded Switch within the next 12 months, because all of these Nintendo channels are setting expectations to a level Nintendo themselves never claimed they would meet, or even acknowledge. Let's look at this realistically. Any credible buzz going around points to an upgraded Switch that runs Switch games better, because that's what, if anything, we need right now. Now, even need is a strong word after the Tears of the Kingdom gameplay demo and the third trailer, and I noticed that the crowd pushing the hardest for new hardware got real quiet after those, but I digress. Now, at the same time, there's so much smoke about Nintendo commissioning a new chip from Nvidia that it's impossible for there to be no fire, but if you put all of the information that we have together, we're talking about two different pieces of hardware. First is what I'll call the Switch Pro. This is the system that came up in the Pokemon rumor. This will doubtlessly run a better optimization around the Tegra X1 that's in the Switch systems we have now, most likely with a higher capacity battery to keep handheld mode running under the intensified chip usage. We may also see a jump up to 128GB of onboard storage, if not 256, because games that have a higher spec cooked in for the Switch Pro can very well have higher quality assets to go with them. That takes up space. About that, want Tears of the Kingdom's $70 price point to make sense? The reported 18GB that the game occupies makes sense for a version of the game that runs on the Switch we have now, but that doesn't mean that the cartridge itself can't go into record-breaking 64GB territory if it contains assets for a spec we don't know about yet. That price point could be reserved for those 64GB cartridges that come equipped with enhanced assets for the Switch Pro. Expect Metroid Prime 4 to be the same kind of situation. I still don't like it, but if that's the reality, it's at least understandable if not necessarily forgivable under the current narrative. If that's not the case, well, then they deserve all the derision they get for failing to justify the price point in any way that adheres to industry norms. I must emphasize that this system will not constitute a generational shift. It will be a standard Switch that just runs better, and I don't think it will even have a token exclusive or two like the new Nintendo 3DS had, because, let's face it, if anything, that was a cautionary tale. This won't run anything the Switch can't, it'll just run the Switch's games better. On the plus side, this is pretty much ironclad, because everything else associated with the Origin leak has come true, and I talked about that in the last video. Now let's look at the next generation system, the coveted Switch 2. This system is based on the new Tegra chip that has been talked about in recent weeks, but that also means the spec just recently got locked in, which if you know anything about hardware development, means it isn't hitting retail for at least 2 years, probably closer to holiday 2025. Once the spec does get locked in, it's still far from ready to go to market. First you have to fabricate dev kits and get them out to your internal studios and third-party partners. All indications are that's where we're at right now. From there, you have to give those studios time to learn the hardware and get the launch lineup in development. Now, game development for a standard retail game in this day and age is, putting it very conservatively, about 2 years, and we're not talking about the ultra high budget AAA stuff like Tears of the Kingdom that can go into much deeper waters, just the kinds of games you see generously doled out at the average Nintendo Direct. High quality gaming to be sure, but no major projects. The general rule of thumb I've been telling people to use when navigating all of these Nintendo rumors is thus: if it's next gen, it's not coming soon. And if it's coming soon, it's not next gen. Keep that in the back of your mind in the coming months. The problem is the YouTube rumor mill is whipping up hype for Nintendo Live on the expectation that we'll hear about one or both of these systems at the event, even though the actual description says absolutely nothing about news or announcements. There are people out there taking it for granted that new hardware is just part of the deal, getting others to see things the same way and setting up a situation where people will lay their disappointment at Nintendo's feet if none of it comes to pass, even when Nintendo themselves aren't claiming that any such thing is going to take place at Nintendo Live. And before anyone jumps on it in the comments, yes, the announcement includes the magic words "and more" that people far too often treat as a wild card to project their own expectations on, but it's never more than a junk statement to catch any attractions that don't fall under the things they already talked about. If new hardware was actually going to be featured at the event, the language would be much more explicit, to the effect of, make sure you're on hand in Seattle to witness the future of Nintendo, or whatever. If a statement comes down between now and September to that effect, then yeah, get excited. Otherwise, please keep your expectations under control. That's all for now. If you like this video, then please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out. Click the notification bell to know right away when the next video drops. I'm Patrick Mifflin, and I'll see you back here soon.